Hello everyone, today we are going to be talking about JWT and how we are going to connect our Django server with our React frontend. Basically, the idea between JWT is that it serves like an authorized token to the client, and we append that token to each upcoming request. So the server checks for every single request if that is the user that needs to be for him to access certain content. So without further ado, let's get started and see what we got here. As you can see, I have prepared a really simple React app. We have our form with username and password. We have submit button, which is going to send that data to our server. And we have a secret resource library and a button which is going to access private resources. So let's look at our architecture, what we have. Our app.js, which contains some logic for handle the submit function, fetch secret data. Then we have the form. We are setting the state for username and password on input, as you can see, and we are storing that into state. What is interesting here is on the handle submit, we are using just fetch, and we call HTTP API token with post method, and we append application JSON to the headers, and we said send the payload, which is the username and the password. Then what we do is, if the response has some errors, we throw them, and if the response is okay, we find the result.access, where the token lives in our local storage. Then when we want to fetch the secret data, we basically just get the token from local state. I will show that in a second. And then we append it to the upcoming request. So we have a response which leads us to a private resource. We have get methods this time because we want to get something from the API, and to the header we append authorization token with BRO keyword, which is important in this case because the library we use on the backend expects it, and the token itself. So with that, we can then validate the data and set the secret message. So what's going to happen if we, for example, just click here? We are going to send empty payload, and our backend is saying that this field cannot be blank. Obviously, nothing is returned. No token is returned. Sorry. So let's look what we have from the backend side. Usually the first thing we should look is our URLs. We saw that we call API/token, which leads us to a class which is imported from a REST framework simple JWT, which is a library that we have installed in our Django app. You can see that we have installed REST framework, which we also use in our views, then the simple JWT and the course header to allow a specific host, in this case our client, which is one of these two, to call the backend without any errors. Then we need some middleware for the course headers, and that's basically for the configuration. Nothing so dramatic here. Then we have in our app, just let me show that. In our core app, we have URLs, which starts with test/authentication, which is a role that we have ourselves defined, which sets some permission classes that expect the user to be authenticated. So if the user is not, we are going to return an error here, and if it's authenticated, we are going to return this response with authentication successful and our secret code, which is 42, obviously. That's it for the backend. Also, it's not something very hard. I have started my backend server. I have started my front end. What you can do is now go to the Django admin and, for example, type admin 123, and we are going to receive an error here because our password is actually password 123, which is for the user that I have created via the dashboard, and you can see it also here. So what we are going to do from the front end, we are going to type actually the same thing. Basically, just let me increase that size. We are going to type admin and then password 123, and then after we submit, we can see that the payload is sent and we receive access and refresh token. Actually, access one is for long term and it's usually a great idea to store it in local state and so on, while the refresh token is more long term and is used to actually refetch the token and receive it once again. Currently, for this implementation, we don't have refresh logic, but you can implement it on your own, and we can see that we have our token in our local storage. So application, local storage, we have the key, we have the value, and then if we try to show hidden resources, we are going to set the token with the upcoming request, and you can see that authentication is successful, and here is our secret. So let's see how we appended that token here, authorization. And it's very important because, as you can see, when I remove the token and I refresh, for instance, and I click show hidden resources, I get an error because authentication is required to access hidden resources. You can even see here that we are not letting request to be sent because we don't have token set. That's our current implementation. Also, if I tap something that is not registered in the database, for example, admin123, we are going to receive an error. No active account found with the given credentials, and here some status code is returned. Also, we can show that message for better user experience. But I hope you get the main thing here, which we're trying to describe. So you cannot get the resources if you are not authenticated, which is the purpose behind JWT. One thing I also want to mention about the refresh token is that it's generally a good idea to store it somewhere else. And when I say somewhere else, I mean, for example, it's generously a good idea to set it in an HTTP cookie, which prevents for CRF attacks, if I'm not mistaken. So that's for this video. If you want to go more in depth in the next one, or you want to discuss anything else related to authentication with Django, React, or any other services, you can drop a comment below if you learned something, and see you at the next one.